Our Free and Equal segment tonight, 14 of the 15 felony charges levied against investigative journalist David Daleiden have been dismissed. A judge in California found the charges to be legally insufficient, and the man who exposed Planned Parenthood's brutal baby body parts chop shop has been exonerated again. But you don't hear that from the mainstream media. They were oh so quick to blast headlines when Daleiden was charged, but they're strangely quiet now that Daleiden has been cleared. With me now from the Daily Caller, Amber Athey. Amber, good to see you.
Thanks for having me on, Liz.
All right, Amber, did you notice how many headlines there were on all the mainstream networks, all the mainstream publications when Daleiden was charged? They basically convicted him as a felon just for having felony charges against him. But now that he's been cleared, 14 of the 15 have been dismissed. Crickets, you don't hear anything.
Right, and that's the thing with the mainstream media is they love to talk about Planned Parenthood when it's positive for them, but when it's not, they're completely silent. We saw the same thing with Planned Parenthood's annual report, which showed that they had decreased a lot of their women's health services while ramping up abortions. The only big three cable news network to talk about that was Fox News. The other two were silent, and when they do talk about Planned Parenthood, they lie about it. MSNBC's host Stephanie Ruhle was on the record just the other day talking about how Planned Parenthood had greatly increased women's services and abortions had remained stagnant, which if she had actually read the annual report, she would know wasn't true. And of course, none of them have covered the charges being dropped on the Center for Medical Progress journalists. So it's true that they ignore these stories whenever they don't fit their narrative about Planned Parenthood.
No, and the funny thing is whenever we do segments about Planned Parenthood or whenever I do a final point that talks about the numbers from Planned Parenthood, I always get so much pushback from the left talking about how inaccurate my numbers are. Well, the funny thing is, Amber, I pull all of those numbers from Planned Parenthood's own annual report, and people who claim that they're supportive of Planned Parenthood, they claim they're feminists, they claim to stand up for women's health, for women's autonomy, and all the lefty talking points on Planned Parenthood, they don't believe it's true. They don't believe it's true, even though it's from Planned Parenthood's own annual report, because they're shocked because it's not how Planned Parenthood represents themselves. But Amber, let me ask you about this. So another part of this story, and I want to stay on the legalistic part of this, on the felony charges that have been dismissed. Another shocking part that the mainstream media is neglecting to cover is essentially the collusion that's been happening between Planned Parenthood in California and the California justice system. This would be the current Attorney General and the former Attorney General, who is now Senator of the United States from the state of California, Kamala Harris. They were highly involved in the law, creating the law that led to the charges against Daleiden, and the mainstream media doesn't seem to notice.
Right, and not to mention that the AG was financially tied to Planned Parenthood back when he was running for Congress. So it's really no surprise that this is just a partisan hit job by California to try and silence these journalists who are doing undercover work. And I think the fact that these charges were dropped is a huge win for the First Amendment and for the freedom of the press, because as we know, journalists have long used undercover tactics in order to expose these stories that otherwise can't be given to the general public. And so if you look at the charges that were being levied against the Center for Medical Progress, they were claiming that they were infringing on the privacy and confidentiality of these conversations that they had with Planned Parenthood employees. But when you watch the videos, you see that they're in busy hotel lobbies and restaurants eating salads with other patrons around them. So the charges were clearly bogus and just used to try to silence these journalists so that they weren't exposing the terrible things that Planned Parenthood is doing.
Right, and ironically, there's some poetic justice in this. The CEO of Planned Parenthood herself, Cecile Richards, in front of Congress. Check out what she had to say about the privacy issue in these videos. Take a look.
In my judgment, it was inappropriate to have that conversation in a non-clinical setting, in a non-confidential area about clinical matters, okay. And I've told that to Dr. Nucatola.
Amber, she essentially was the one. She testified in front of Congress under oath that it was in a non-confidential area. You can't have it both ways, clearly. Fortunately, the judge in this case found that to be the case, but there's further collusion. Besides Kamala Harris colluding with Planned Parenthood on the writing of this bill, and now Attorney General Xavier Becerra, the fact that he received thousands of dollars when he was a congressman from Planned Parenthood, the judge that was going to preside over the contempt charge or the contempt hearing for David Daleiden, his wife, this judge's wife, his name is William Orrick, this judge's wife went onto her Facebook account and called these videos by Daleiden an act of domestic terror and liked another post on Facebook that called them grossly misrepresenting the truth and falsely edited. I mean, it's so partisan, it's hard to believe it's even masquerading as justice.
Right. All of the collusion and corruption here is just absolutely ridiculous. And it just shows how scared Planned Parenthood is of these videos. Like you mentioned, the first thing they said when they came out was that they were heavily edited, which is, of course, a blatant lie, because if you go on the Center for Medical Progress's website, they have the full hour to 2 hour long videos right there for anyone to watch. And then it was trying to lock these guys up for doing legal undercover journalism. And then just most recently, they scrubbed YouTube of the latest Center for Medical Progress video, which showed Planned Parenthood employees casually talking about ripping off arms and legs of babies and laughing about having a baby's eyeball roll into their lap. So it's absolutely disgusting. And of course they don't want these videos released because they don't want the general public to know just how much disrespect they have for human life.
No, you're exactly right. And they yanked a video of ours too down off of YouTube, by the way, when we showed Dalyden's video. We had that within a segment, and they pulled it down for violating community standards, whatever they consider those to be. But the fact of the matter is, and this is where we get to the why of the question, why are they trying to hide this? If they're so proud of their business, if they claim to champion abortion, if they're the proponents of the hashtags like hashtag shout your abortion, if they don't want stigma attached to abortion, what are they so ashamed of? What do they want to hide? And the answer to that question is they want to hide illegal behavior. There's two blatant law-breaking behavior that we can see in these videos. The first is the abortionists admit that they alter the abortion procedure in order to harvest the baby's body parts without crushing them. You're not allowed to do that under federal law. And the second is another violation, not of state law, of federal law, again, where they sell aborted baby body parts for profit. That's illegal. Both things are illegal. And the only way they can distract against that is trying to point their finger at Dalyden, which clearly didn't work. Amber, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.